The beginning of the NBA season is a really interesting time to be a fan. Some teams start out wildly exceeding their expectations, while others get off to a really rough start. In this video, I want to talk about one of those teams, that being the Memphis Grizzlies, and if there's still hope for their season, or if they should hit the panic button. Now look, I'm a pretty optimistic fella, so I'd like to think I find the positives where I can, but the Grizzlies haven't done anything so far this season that gives me much hope. And I swear to never be a reactionary commentator, so with the asterisk that this has been less than a 10-game sample size, I want to go over a few numbers. The Grizzlies are dead last in the Western Conference, having started out the season 1-7 and currently have a defensive rating of 110.5, which is good enough for 14th in the NBA, as well as a 104.2 offensive rating, which is the worst in the entire league. That means their net rating, which is found by subtracting the offensive rating from the defensive rating, essentially showing how much more or less a team can score compared to their opponent, is negative 6.3. There's another statistic I want to share with you. It's called efficiency differential. Efficiency differential is pretty simple. It takes the amount of points a team scored per 100 possessions and subtracts the amount of points they allowed per 100 possessions. The Grizzlies' current efficiency differential is negative 6.4. Meaning they're getting outscored per 100 possessions by almost 6.5 points, further showing what their net rating already told us. Obviously, a losing record by itself indicates a team isn't scoring as much as their opponents, but it's important to take a look a bit further and see just how bad they're getting outpaced offensively. Additionally, almost 16% of the Grizzlies' possessions are ending in turnovers. That's nearly every 6 times the Grizzlies bring the ball up the court, they're losing it. So that's not good. That's actually really bad. Really bad. They rank 25th in turnovers per game in general, they're 28th in the league in field goal percentage, 25th in free throw attempts, and 28th in true shooting percentage. The Grizzlies' offense has been across the board awful, and it's all because they got rid of Dillon Brooks. No, I'm just kidding, could you imagine? He's actually had a really good start in Houston, but that's very much besides the point. Now there's a ton of reasons you can point to as to why the Grizzlies have gotten off to such a terrible start offensively, chief among them being Ja Morant's 25-game suspension, but I don't think you can just inject Ja Morant back onto the squad and suddenly make things turn around. Losing Tyus Jones to the Wizards on a 2-year deal was also a big hit for Memphis. He was a key reason they had a top 10 offense the past couple of seasons because his extremely efficient, low turnover, pass-first play style helped keep the offense flowing when Ja wasn't on the floor. Another big factor is the absence of Steven Adams for the entirety of this season. That was announced just a couple of days before tip-off. Adams sprained the posterior cruciate ligament in his right knee. Don't worry, I'm not going to pretend I know what that is, but it had him sit out the second half of last season as well as the playoffs. He's undergoing surgery after rehab failed to resolve his knee stability, and that loss for the Grizzlies is massive on both ends of the floor. On defense, Adams is one of the best rebounders in the game, which is huge because Jaren Jackson Jr. is subpar in that category, we'll say. But importantly, Steven Adams might be the best boxer-outer in the league, and that frequently enabled Ja Morant to grab the defensive board and initiate quick transition offense. Without him and Brandon Clark, who tore his left Achilles in March, underwent a second procedure for it during the offseason, and has no timetable for a return, the Grizzlies are pretty screwed in the size department. With Ja Morant not eligible to return until at least December 19th, it's looking increasingly unlikely that the Grizzlies can hold a 500 record till he makes it back. To be honest, even that's pretty generous. They're 6 games back of 500 already, so even if the next month and a half wasn't as bad for the Grizzlies, there's virtually zero chance of them suddenly turning things around and crawling back to even close to a level record. And as I've said, even when Ja Morant's back, the rest of this team just isn't good. They have an alright starting 5, although the Defensive Player of the Year from last season and the Defensive Player of the Year from the season before, producing the 14th best defense, is underachieving to say the least, but beyond their starters, there's been no notable contributors. Derrick Rose had one decent game against the Nuggets, then injured his knee, so we're going to go ahead and scratch that one off. Bismack Biyombo is a fine backup center, but you're not really going to turn to him to make an impact. Santi Aldama has played 2 games, and Luke Kennard is shooting 30% from 3. With there being almost no nights off in the West, I find it pretty unlikely that Memphis isn't a play-in team given what we've seen so far. And at that point, a first-round exit at best? I'm not trying to extrapolate too much here, just looking down the timeline with how things are, and it's not promising, for this season at any rate. Desmond Bane has played fairly well, at least his box score numbers have gone up accordingly while trying to make up for some of Ja's absence, but his efficiency from behind the arc has taken quite a hit. And Jaren Jackson Jr., who, admittedly I'm not as high on as other people in the NBA world, has done his thing on offense. This team's in trouble though. I talked about how Ja's suspension would hurt them, but did not expect the Grizzlies to be this bad. According to cleaningtheglass.com, based off of their efficiency differential, the Grizzlies are projected to win 24.9 games this season. That's obviously insane and skewed by their 1-7 start, but sooner or later, this team is going to reach a point where their season is unsalvageable, or at least not worth going Super Saiyan just to be an 8th seed over, and I unfortunately think that's where the Grizzlies are heading. I'm trying not to overreact, and I've likely said that ad nauseum this video, but I also want to be realistic. In the long run, I don't think this is the end of the world. Their core players are still young, and don't let Grizzlies fans fool you, it's not like they were on the precipice of winning a championship anyways, but the Grizzlies' start to this season has me just about all the way out on any serious playoff aspirations of theirs. Right now, this team is probably suffering the most from injuries and other extraneous circumstances that would keep their best players out, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm calling the Grizzlies out for being frauds and like their success over the past 2 seasons doesn't matter. Because that's not it at all, but we gotta call a spade, and they've been shockingly bad to start out this season. Who knows though, maybe Ja Morant will come back and go absolutely crack goblin mode on the entire league. Not like he'd get the MVP though, that 25-game vacay is gonna make sure of that, but I wouldn't rule it out entirely that by the turn of the calendar year, the Grizzlies are playing much better and with way more intent. It's a lot easier said than done to ask a team to hold the line while half of them are down and in need of a revive, so it's very understandable that when a group takes as many blows as Memphis has, the rest of the players are going to have a pretty tough time showing up each and every single night and fighting like they're a top-seeded team. It is just the beginning of the season though, so we'll have to tune back into Grizzlies FM at some point later on and see how things have been going. In the meantime, they'll probably remain one of the worst teams in the West, and I guess by default the league, but I wouldn't worry too much if I were a Grizzlies fan. Most of what's going on has a pretty straightforward answer of, the team is being held together by 2K generated players, so no wonder they haven't been too hot. And even if that means that this season is a complete wash, who cares? Y'all got time and weren't winning shit besides regular season games anyways, so take a chill pill. I don't know. But either way, that's going to be all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video a lot, like extra hard, then consider giving it a like. It would mean a lot to me and helps push the video, I think, or have been told, whatever, it's not going to hurt you, so be a real one. Regardless, I'll be back soon, but until then, take care.